Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
He needs care and treatment.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Is this a great country or what?
Locking down the middle of the day, live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. We're brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Got Jordan Kitchens, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and two, and we got plenty to get to, recapping a weekend in sports and a morning here in Baton Rouge over the course of the next 2 hours. Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, LouisianaSports.net. He's with us talking Saints at 1:15. That's 15 minutes from right now. We'll get caught up on the latest in Saints camp, as well as a thought from Ross on Drew Brees going into the Hall of Fame over the weekend. LSU was on the practice field today. I've got my thoughts on that coming up here. Sam Levitt met with the media. We'll get to that at 2 o'clock. Lane Kiffin met with the media. Not a ton of meat on that bone, but we'll get to some of that later on in hour number 2 as well. So plenty to do as we're inching closer and closer to actual football season. The Saints have a preseason game coming up at the end of this week. LSU is just inside 3 weeks from the season opener with Clemson. I got to tell you, I looked up and it being August the 10th. That was a pretty rapid first week of August. Now we've only got 2 more weeks where LSU doesn't have a game to play, and then it's game week here in Baton Rouge. So generally speaking, this is a month that can drag. I haven't gotten that vibe early on, and we're almost halfway through here. So that's a positive thing. Maybe the summer dragged a little bit with LSU baseball ducking out early, but we're rapidly barreling down on football season here in South Louisiana, and that is a good thing. Let's start with our LSU practice report from today. It's our opening drive.
Welcome to the big league.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Fabry Chevrolet GMC in St. Francisville.
LSU was out there on the Ponderosa today, had on helmets and shoulder pads, called that shells for a workout. They'll throw the full pads on later on this week. Lane Kiffin talked about that earlier today, said they're going to have to do a little bit of tackling entering this week, be a little bit more physical this week and next week. They didn't tackle really at all in the spring, and they haven't to this point. Lane Kiffin really prioritizes health and freshness as opposed to the Junction Boys, 2-a-days, bring everybody to the ground, work on fundamentals and tackling all day, every day. He prioritizes keeping guys healthy. He prioritizes keeping guys fresh, keeping guys fast. And so they have not tackled yet. They will do so entering the back end of this week. They didn't today. We were out there for about 20 minutes today, closer to 15, I would suggest, 2 periods. And I want to get some housekeeping things out of the way first. Damian Shanklin has not been there the last few practices. Lane Kiffin was asked about Shanklin today and said that he is not practicing with the team, and he can't comment any further on that. So clearly, Damian Shanklin away from the program right now, second-year edge rusher from the Midwest who is not out there. Of course, Gabe Relaford tore his ACL back in the spring. He's going to miss the entire season. I saw him riding a stationary bike today, but he's going to miss the season. So you look at that, Shanklin not with the team, Relaford out for the year. They're a little bit thin at edge rusher, and they are going to make a move there. Jaden Breaker, the linebacker, who's listed at 6'3", about 225, he has moved down to work out with the edges. You've got, obviously, Prince William Onmiel, you've got Jordan Ross. Lamar Brown has entered the fold. You've got Dylan Carpenter. Trenton Henderson is a freshman who can play at that spot as well, but they're going to move Jaden Breaker down. They've got a lot of linebackers. I've told you many times that LSU didn't lose any linebackers to the transfer portal from that young group. You kept Jaden Breaker, you kept Charles Ross, you kept Keelan Moses. Obviously, you've got Tylen Singleton, who is there. You've got Devon Keys, who is there. You got Zach Weeks, who is there. Witt and TJ Dottery are your leaders there. But you got a lot of linebackers, so Breaker will move down a level. He will use that length on the edge and provide a little depth for an LSU position that's a little bit thin on numbers right there behind the 2 veterans in Ross and Umon-Miel, and you've got a lot of unproven guys at that spot, but Breaker will move down and play a little bit on the edge. Did see that Trey'Dez Green was in a no-contact jersey today. I don't think you should be alarmed at that at all. He participated completely in the 2 periods we were there. He led the tight ends through the pass-catching drills, was running full speed, making catches in the back of the end zone, had a nice catch on a ball that Sam Levitt threw him on a deep route up the seam. And so he was in a no-contact jersey all of spring as well. I don't know why, if that's just a, hey, don't hit Trey'Dez, he's really good, I don't want him to get hurt, or if there is some sort of lingering issue. I'm not aware of one, but it doesn't appear to me to be at all significant because he's out there fully participating in everything that LSU does, even with that no-contact jersey on. I did not see another player in a no-contact jersey on Monday morning. Michael Turner, the cornerback, was in one over the weekend. I did not notice him in one today, but I didn't spend a lot of time with the DBs. In the one moment I did glance over at the DBs, they were in a shell coverage drill, and Tamarcus Cooley did back up and work as the first-team safety alongside Ty Benefield. He was out there with DJ Pickett, PJ Woodland, Deshaun Spears. So you have seen an extended look there for Jace Thomas. I think that the staff really likes Jace Thomas, but I do think that Tamarcus Cooley is probably your starter and is certainly going to factor in significantly on this team. That's a guy who started for you last year in the secondary. He started at NC State the year before that in the secondary. He's a proven starting player, and I don't read too much into the fact that the first 12 minutes of fall camp, Jace Thomas was back there with the first team and Ty Benefield. We talked about it last week a little bit. It could be a deal where they just want to see the communication between Jace Thomas and Ty Benefield. They may want Cooley's experience with the second team helping. Who knows? But Cooley was out there with the first team at today, so that was interesting. Weston Davis was not at practice on Saturday. He was back at practice today. We didn't get an update on that from Lane Kiffin. No one asked Kiffin about Weston Davis. I was not at practice on Saturday. I had a broadcast over at River Parishes Community College, so I wasn't there. We had Chris Marler on the scene there. Taylor Sharp was on the scene there. But no Weston Davis. It appears that that Satterwhite, the transfer from Tennessee, was working at right tackle with Weston Davis not available on Saturday. That surprises me a lot. I thought Charles Satterwhite came in to be the backup center to Braylon Moore. And to know that he's out playing right tackle is kind of interesting. I would imagine that would be Devin Harper's spot. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Darren Stray occupied that spot. I know the staff is very high on Bryson Martinez, who profiles as a tackle. Like, you've got some other options there, but Satterwhite being the first guy out there at right tackle surprised me a little bit. In the same way that, you saw DJ Chester go out there and play on the tackles last year when you had injuries where Braylon Moore took over at center. Chester kind of became the sixth man, and when you did have an injury to Tyree Adams, you did have an injury to Carius Kern or Weston Davis, you had DJ Chester go in there. Didn't go great, but that's what you saw happen for LSU's offensive line last year. And it appears perhaps Satterwhite is kind of in that spot now. We'll see. I'm, again, not reading too much into it. I made an effort to go over there and look at the offensive line today. They are letting us walk places that we have not been in spring football and in the first week of fall camp. You can go a little bit closer to the offensive line. I've told you all a couple of times that they are the furthest away from us. Now we can walk over there and be pretty close to them. I did that today, but while we were out there for those 15 minutes, the offensive line never lined up in a 5 across. They just hit sleds individually. And that's the deal. Like, it's hit or miss with what we get to see out there at practice because we're not out there very long and they're doing individual drills. And there's a lot of cones. There's a lot of sleds. There's a lot of tackling dummies. Like, there's a lot of not 11 on 11, not full position groups. There's a lot of individual work going on. And when they do that, I can't tell you who's in the starting rotation. They're just going through pop and sleds. So I am curious about the right tackle position now. I think Weston Davis is your odds-on favorite there. But in the event that he is unavailable or does get beaten out, maybe it's not some of the names I was looking at previously. Maybe it's Satterwhite, who I thought came in as an interior offensive lineman or as a center that perhaps could be getting a look on the outside. Last piece to the puzzle for the offense today that I checked out was Sam Levitt. He was 18 for 20 with no defense out there in the throws that I saw him make. He overthrew one deep ball to Jace Brown. He also overthrew one deep ball to Trey Harris. Not Trey Harris. Trey, there's too many Treys, Jaces, and Browns. It's the Florida guy who wears number 3.
Trey Wilson.
Trey Wilson. I cannot get there. All the receivers have the same name, and it's a problem. Trey Will. I know their story and their number. Coming up with the name on the spot is giving me problems. But and I obviously just write numbers at practice. You're going fast. But he overthrew 2, but he was on the money with everything else. They worked with Trey. He worked with Trey Wilson a lot. He worked with Phillip Wright a lot. He worked with Jace Brown a lot. And he worked with Roman Mothershed a lot today after he moved on from the tight ends, where, of course, he was working with Trey Green. But I thought Levitt looked good. There was good zip on his passes. They hit a lot of different routes on the route tree. They hit some deep balls. They hit a couple option routes in the middle of the field, hit a couple deep outs that we saw, some crossers over the middle. I mentioned the Trey Green pass. He threw up the seam, I thought was a good-looking throw. And he is getting a lot of reps, y'all. I think that they – not necessarily making up for lost time, but he is clearly the focus of these drills. And that shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody. He missed spring, and he is the starting quarterback. Famously, Drew Brees wanted to take as many reps as he could possibly get, and the Saints' backups didn't get a lot. These guys are getting some, the backups are, but Levitt is getting a lot. It's 2, 3, 4 throws at a time, and then he backs up. It's very much not a one-in, one-out type of deal. He's getting a lot of throws, and I thought today looked pretty good, doing a lot of stuff around the line of scrimmage, but did hit a couple of deep balls as well. Probably the catch of the day went to Phillip Wright, who made a really nice catch down the sideline on a good throw from Levitt. I really believe that LSU's got 7 or 8 receivers that could play that I would feel pretty good putting out there. I don't think they'll play that many, and Lane Kiffin was asked about that today, and we'll get to some of that sound later on in the show. But they've got talent at wide receiver. I don't think there's a Jamar Chase out there. I don't think there's a Cam Coleman out there. You saw the crazy catch he made at Texas training camp this weekend. But they've just got a lot of guys who do a lot of things well. They've got good speed, good quickness. They've got some size, some physicality, and they're catching the ball pretty well as well. Only saw one drop today, and it was from tight end. It was from Malachi Thomas, the Pitt transfer at tight end. Dropped the ball over the middle, but the wide receivers did a good job making catches all day today, and I thought Levitt looked pretty good. So that's kind of a comprehensive look at what we saw at practice today. You can read about it for free over at LouisianaSports.net. Just about 15 minutes out there. We'll be back at it tomorrow night. They stagger their practices to maximize rest and, again, try to keep some guys fresh. And they may be putting the full pads on tomorrow. We'll see. I don't know if that changes what we get to look at out there, but they will become more physical this week and then into next week. And then, obviously, with game week, they'll ramp it down a little bit before Clemson. So we shall see. We're off and running here on a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. When we come back, we'll talk Saints with Ross Jackson. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Check out Marucci. Kids are back in school for the most part, right? So killing some of those summer days is over, but that doesn't mean that you got to hang it up baseball-wise and just focus solely on football. If you've got a kid that wants to focus on baseball or softball year-round, you can do it at Marucci. Become a member. You can go in there and take hacks 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with that key card access as a member at Marucci. You can also go take a tour and learn how Marucci became the official bat of Major League Baseball. Their campus tour is so fascinating. You get to see where they make 1,200 bats a day, and you get to learn the story of how Marucci became the official bat of Major League Baseball. Check them out online at MarucciSports.com. That's MarucciSports.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. They're online at GuaranteeHealth.com, GuaranteeHealth.com. On Palmer Show here on a Monday. Let's transition from the purple and gold over to the black and gold. Ross Jackson's all over it for Locked On Saints, as well as LouisianaSports.net. Gives us a little bit of time here on this Monday. Ross, how we doing?
Hey, dude, I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for having me.
It is our pleasure. Let's talk about the unfortunate news over the weekend. Dylan Radin suffers an injury, out for the year. How impactful is that for this Saints offensive line?
Yeah, it doesn't impact their starting lineup, of course, but, man, that's a big loss for them from a depth. Look, Radin, they brought him back on a 2-year deal, which showed a commitment to him beyond just here in 2026. And he's a player that can back up not just a guard position, but he can back up both guard positions and both tackle positions. And so when you have a player like him who has starting experience in the NFL, came from a really, really good program out at North Dakota State University, and has the ability to back up 4 positions for you when you lose that player for the year in training camp, that's a pretty big hit. And so I think that kind of changes the conversation a bit around the Saints offensive line, because you want to have 8 or 9 guys, or 7 or 8 guys probably, that you're really confident in. And I think you just lost one of those guys, and the guy that was probably number 6 on that list, if not actually in the top 5 at a certain point. So for New Orleans, it's a pretty big loss, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's one that sends them at least peering at the market a bit like they did last year when they brought in guys like Xavier Truss, Awesome Richards, and others over the course of the offseason.
When you think you have enough offensive linemen, get 2 more, I think is probably the most the
right,
best way to go about it. What does it mean, though, without Radin in terms of personnel? Like, who would be next up for the Saints right now at those backup spots?
Yeah, I would imagine Awesome Richards is up there. He would probably be the guy that would be your go-to at backup tackle. I think William Sherman is another one to watch out for. He's got 5 position versatility there. They like him a lot on the interior in particular. And then Xavier Truss, a player who they added over the course of the offseason via waivers, can fit in as well. Those are the veteran guys. But, of course, you'll want to keep an eye out on rookie guard Jeremiah Wright as well. He's dealing with a shoulder injury right now, but as Kellen Moore has indicated, he's progressing in that conversation, and he could end up becoming the team's top backup at guard and a guy that ends up being a part of the conversation once the team decides where they want to go in terms of further shuffling their offensive line after the season.
Let's talk about the two tackles. Obviously, early in their careers, Saints invested first-round picks in those guys and expect them to be pillars of the franchise moving forward. How have they held up against a talented group of Saints edge rushers in camp?
Yeah, the only misfortunate part for them is the level of talent at edge rusher for the Saints right now. And so I guess what I would say is that it is a bit of an iron sharpens iron approach. They win some, they lose some, and that's what you want to see here throughout training camp as a whole. So those guys are getting tested, but they're also standing up and showing up on their own as well. In particular, Kelvin Banks has been very impressive throughout, continues to be really impressive going into his second season. He's the guy that was left on an island a lot at left tackle last year. That's something that the Saints are going to continue to ask of him. And the good news for him is that he won't be going up against, Chase Young every single rep of his season moving forward, which will be good for him. But right now he's getting work with guys like Chase Young, Carl Granderson, and others that have been really impressive here so far throughout training camp, and that should make them all the better.
Tell me about the offense moving as a whole, and start with Shuck, I guess. I know that the defense has probably won more of the days. I was reading through your reports, but how has the offense looked at times with Shuck leading the way? Yeah,
first-team offense, still one that certainly feels like pieces are kind of falling into place, but the progress is there. I mean, you've got days from Tyler Shuck at that first-team offense where he's completed 8 of his 9 passes, 11 of his 14 passes, 10 of his 15 passes. It's been a very quietly efficient day, series of days for that offense. The thing for them is when they get into the situational work, like the 2-minute drills, the 4-minute drills, the midfield kind of progressive stuff, like drive progression stuff. That's been sort of the stuff that has kind of challenged them a little bit. And those are the things that were a little challenging for them last year. But in games, you saw Tyler Shuck as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in the final 2 minutes of games. So that clutch factor is absolutely there for him. And so situationally, you're seeing a bit of the struggles, but you're seeing things also fall into place. So I would say everything, considering the amount of newness that's still involved in that offense in terms of personnel, draft picks, free agent signings, all of that. Nothing super surprising right now, nothing to hit a panic button over, but still some progress to be made for sure.
Ross Jackson, LouisianaSports.net, and Locked On Saints, covering the black and gold as good as anybody. He's giving us a little bit of time here on this Monday. For me, I think the floor is very low and the ceiling is very high on the Saints at cornerback entering the season. How have you seen those two starters, Kool-Aid McKinstry and Quincy Riley, play early on in camp?
Yeah, those guys have really taken a step,
Good.
And I think that they've looked pretty strong. And look, they're not going up against, the practice squad guys or anything like that, right? Like Kool-Aid McKinstry has only taken a few one-on-one reps, but every one-on-one rep that he takes, he's going up against Chris Olave. Those guys, when they're in first-team drills, are going up against Chris. They're going up against Jordan Tyson. They're going up against Devon Bailey. Like, they're going up against the team's top talent. And so I think that they've shown up quite a bit. Each of those guys with their with a couple of takeaways. Each of those guys with a lot of plays being made at the football. I think one of the places where Kool-Aid McKinstry in particular has made a big step beyond his leadership off the field. On the field, one of the places where he's taken a big step forward has been his sort of calmness with the ball in the air. When he was at Alabama, his specialty was just making quarterbacks look the other way. And so he had very few interceptions, very few passes broken up, all those other pieces all throughout college. But then when he got to the NFL, as a young cornerback, you're going to get targeted. And so now you look at, okay, so how do you adjust to seeing the ball come your way more? And I think that that's a place where he's taken a big stride, is his calm and composure when the ball's in the air.
How concerned should Saints fans be about kicker right now?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I would say that you should be concerned about it.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't be walking around thinking that it's all taken care of. But I think that you have one kicker in Tanner Brown who's just now joining the team. He's got, I think it's 4 or 5 missed kicks so far throughout training camp, including misses from like extra point and in the 40-yard range. Charlie Smith's got 7 missed kicks so far throughout camp. Has a couple of different two separate days where he missed more than 3 or missed 3 kicks. You want to see a bit more consistency there. So I certainly wouldn't consider that a thing that's trending in the greatest direction right now. But look, Charlie Smith found a way to flip a switch during training camp around this time last year. He went on a run where he sank 10-plus field goals in a row to close out training camp, and then was perfect in the preseason as well. If he has the ability to do that again, it could finally help to create some separation. But right now, that battle between the two is tight, and probably not for the reason that you want it to be.
Yeah, that's a big deal, especially for a team that I think in New Orleans that's going to be playing some close games this year. You got to have those points
absolutely.
when they're available. Ross, set the schedule for this week. I know we're about to get into a preseason game here.
Yeah, we're already here. It's kind of crazy. The Saints play football this weekend, which is insane to me. But yeah, so they're off today. They're back on the practice field tomorrow. That's going to be their final installation practice. So after that, they'll have had the entire offense and defense set in. They'll have kind of a lighter day on Wednesday, which is going to be out of pads. It'll be their first practice out of pads in a while. And then Thursday, they're into their joint practices with the Jaguars. Friday, they'll go into their walkthrough, and then here we are. Football is back here in New Orleans at the Superdome.
We'll be watching Locked On Saints. We'll certainly be reading LouisianaSports.net. Appreciate the time, Ross.
Thank you, buddy. Take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.
That's Ross Jackson, Locked On Saints, and, of course, LouisianaSports.net. I saw you shaking your head back there, Jordan.
What can I say?
We're missing kicks. We're missing a lot of kicks.
Hunt, that's like 12 kicks between the both of them. Are you kidding me?
Not good.
Are you kidding me right now? These are professionals.
No, I was reading through Ross's practice report, and I was like, oh, God. I mean, it's not the part I thought I'd spend the most time on, but here we are. I mean, there are kickers out there, and you may have to go shopping. I mean, that's a lot of missed kicks. I mean, you can't. We would have been practicing for 3 weeks. We're missing a dozen kicks.
Like, I mean, are these not professionals?
And it's not like we're not talking about 65-yarders here.
They're not exactly like.
It's.
I'm gonna just chill, Hunt. It's too early.
We talked about this, but like I would contend that they're probably going to play a lot of close games.
Yeah.
And if we're missing 47-yarders, we got real problems. And Groupie was doing it all year last year before they cut him.
In a dome.
Yeah.
In a dome. We're not outside in
Charlie
Buffalo.
Smith's a great story, and he's a great talent. But I don't care how far you can kick it. I need it between the pipes.
Literally.
I need it between the pipes. So that is concerning in a big way. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's more fun to talk about the quarterback. It's more fun to talk about edge rushers and first-round picks. It's more fun to talk about the highlights that happen. But if you're missing a bunch of kicks, it's something we have to talk about. And that obviously is a bit of a concern down there in New Orleans right now. But to Ross's point at the end there, we're getting close to some real action here. The Saints will be off today, as he said. They'll get back to work with the light practice on Tuesday. Then they'll be light on Wednesday. They will work with the Jaguars for a couple of joint practices, so I think are very, very important. Get those in, and then we'll see some action on Saturday with the Saints and the Jags in the first preseason game. I wouldn't contend a lot of the guys that play in that game are going to be impactful players for the Saints this year. That's the preseason's been devalued more and more and more over time. So I wouldn't imagine you're going to see a lot of guys that'll be out there, but it's still football. They're still going to put the jerseys on, so it's worth watching. We'll certainly do that on Saturday. Our Monday show is brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. They're online at guaranteehealth.com. We will step aside. We will come back. We'll transition back to LSU next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Fabry Chevrolet GMC, online at fabrychevrolet.com. That's fabrychevrolet.com. Want a truck? One stop. Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Silverados, 2026 version, 0% APR financing for 5 years, plus no monthly payments for 90 days. That's now until August 31st. So throughout the month of August, get by and see those Chevy Silverados. You're looking at GMC Sierra. They've got 2026 Sierra 1500s for 2.9 APR for 72 months, plus an additional $1,500 in allowance throughout the month of August. If you're looking for a new vehicle, they got you covered there. And if you live a pre-owned vehicle, they've got one to match any budget. Any budget. So if you're looking for a new ride, maybe a pre-owned ride, you can find it at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. Check them out online at fabrychevrolet.com. That's fabrychevrolet.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
GoTro's Outdoor Power. They're online at GoTrosOnline.com. GoTrosOnline.com. 2 locations for GoTro's Outdoor Power. One on Airline in Baton Rouge, and then, of course, they've got another in Gonzales. GoTro family's been at it for 22 years, family-owned and operated. They're not small. They are a family-owned and operated company, but they're not small. They're the National Hustler Deal of the Year 2 of the last 3 years, largest hustler inventory in the state, largest parts inventory in the state. So don't feel like, you go with the the local option, maybe not the inventory you're looking for. I promise you, they got it. And you'll see that massive inventory over there on Airline when you drive by. So if you've got time to go get a zero-turn mower, need to manage that property as grass is growing like crazy these days, get on by and see them. You can check out the website at GoTrosOnline.com. They got their summer clearance sale going on right now, talking about up to $1,900 off select in-stock mowers if you go by and see them at GoTros Outdoor Power. Online at GoTrosOnline.com. That's GoTros Outdoor Power. All right, Lane Kiffin met with the media earlier today after LSU's practice. Sam Levitt did as well. We'll hear from Sam Levitt coming up in 30 minutes at the top of hour number 2. But I wanted to get to some of the things that Lane Kiffin had to say today as he was with the media for somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 minutes. And the first bite I want to talk about is bringing in 2 offensive line coaches, Aaron Wolford and James Craig, to both manage the offensive line, which had to do a huge overhaul, as y'all well know, after a lot of transfers out and from a unit that did not perform very well last year in any real phase of the game. So Kiffin spoke about the 2 guys that are working with this LSU offensive line.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a better pair in the country. You know, you get 2 big-time SEC line coaches together here, and one with great history, obviously, at the program here and the national championship and the Joe Moore Award, and both have coached in the NFL. So we're very fortunate to have that. It's really easy to recruit to, and they're really good technique coaches. I had not worked with Eric before. I had always heard good things about him. Coach Saban called about him, really raved about him when he had him, and then we brought him in, and he did a great job.
I can't wait for this Clemson game to see if LSU can run the football. It's been 2 years of non-existent running game, and I just can't watch it anymore. I cannot watch it anymore. And I don't know how much of that is on the old offensive line coach. I don't know how much of that is on the old offensive line. I don't know how much of that is on the old offensive coordinator. I don't know how much of that is on the old head coach. I don't know what piece of the pie everyone takes blame for in terms of the LSU's inability to run the ball, but it's got to get better. They just have to be a lot better. And this is a group that has got a proven commodity in the middle, but doesn't really have anybody else that is proven in the ground game. Jordan Seaton is a great pass protector at left tackle. His PFF grades are not great in the run game. Bo Bordelon has been on LSU's campus for 4 years and hasn't been a starter. Weston Davis did not have a very good year last year. Aluba has a good pedigree from Maryland, but it's not in the Southeastern Conference. So you've got to find a way to coach these guys up and to get LSU moving on the ground. That's just a vital piece to what any team wants to do, but certainly what Lane Kiffin wants to do, and those 2 coaches have to get that done. There was a question that was phrased to Lane Kiffin earlier today where they said, hey, LSU's offensive line was obviously a huge problem last year, and he kind of bristled at that question, but then it dovetailed into him speaking about getting Braylon Moore back and just how impactful that can be in the middle of LSU's offensive line.
Well, I don't know that obviously that was the biggest issue, but running backs have to run too, okay? So, that goes – a lot of people have to do with the running game. So it's important to get him back. He's a really good player and really good leader and really strong in there. So really glad to have him.
Look, LSU didn't do much well in the offensive line last year, but Braylon Moore was clearly the best player. Now, he was compromised when he was out there because he got hurt so quickly. The first play of the second game, he got hurt. I know that because that was Myers' first game, and I went to go see him to check in, make sure everything was okay, understanding that my writing responsibilities would take me back to my laptop if there was an injury. And the first play, there was an injury. So I went back to write the Braylon Moore injury. So that he got hurt against Louisiana Tech on the first snap. And then he got hurt later in the season as well. So he was compromised pretty much the entire year. But when he was out there, he was pretty good. And so you've got to put him in the middle and feel like you've got some guys around him that can move LSU forward to some extent. And one of those guys is going to be Bo Bordelon. He was not the starter on the first day of spring ball. Devin Harper was the first team left guard in spring ball. We got to see extended portions of those practices in the spring, and Devin Harper was in there. And then by about practice 3 or 4, there was Bo Bordelon in there, and then he never came out. He was the starter. And when we talked to Whit Weeks in Tampa back in SC Media Days in July, he called him the starter. It was like, yeah, to see Bo win that job and become a starter is really cool. So that's the sense on the team that Bo Bordelon, after 4 years of not being a real impactful player and doing a little bit as a third-team tight end and only starting one game, the Texas Bowl, where all the offensive linemen opted out. Will Campbell opted out. Emory Jones opted out. And Garrett Dellinger opted out. That's the only game he started in 4 years at LSU. Now he moves in at left guard, and Lane Kiffin talked about his progression.
He's earned it. He's practiced really well in the spring, worked out really hard, and learned the playbook. It's all a new playbook, obviously. Done a really good job. And so you guys have probably heard me say before, people don't play here by how many stars they are or what their contract is or where they're from, what state they're from, or who their dad is. So that's not how we do it. He's earned it and done a really good job, and we're excited about that.
For those that don't get the reference, Bo Bordelon's dad played football at LSU and is a very, very successful business person and a big benefactor to the program, and was involved in hiring the next head football coach. He was on the committee that was put together by Verge Osbury to go hire Lane Kiffin. So that is a pretty influential person to have in your corner, but Lane Kiffin says that's not how we're doing things. We're not giving guys playing time based on who their dad is. So this is a great opportunity for Bo Bordelon to become the left guard and to play really well. And by all accounts, he had an awesome spring. And I think this LSU offensive line is going to be better than what you saw last year. And it needs to be significantly better than what you saw last year. That goes almost without saying. Last thing here is that LSU is going to put full pads on this week, and they're going to be a little bit more physical in practice. I mentioned that at the top of the show today, and Lane Kiffin talked about the importance of that part of training camp.
Yeah, we got a tackle, which we avoided a lot in the spring, just trying to get things done and stay healthy. And, you have to at some point because we got to make sure that we're ready, especially, with our schedule set up. You have an extremely hard opener, one of the best programs in the country. So you don't really have a progression to try to maybe treat that game a little bit differently, where you can start tackling in the game more and maybe be a little bit rusty. We can't afford that in this opener. So this will be a week in pads where we see them tackle on Saturday and also see them go against tackling.
So for those unaware, they will scrimmage coming up on Saturday. We are not permitted to view any of that. As we expected, Lane Kiffin has really tightened things up from an access view. We got a lot of good looks in the spring. We are not going to get that in the fall. And as I've said many times, I'm completely fine with that. But they will be more physical this week, and I'm curious to see if what we evaluate at practice is a little bit different when they put full pads on. If we see any sort of competitive reps, I don't anticipate that we will, but certainly possible. We don't get to know that until we actually walk in. So we'll see. But LSU's got to be a physical football team. They've got to be more physical in the ground game. They've got to be more physical stopping the run. And you got to work on that. And there's a delicate balance that Lane Kiffin strikes when he works his teams out. Because as I mentioned back in the first segment, he really prioritizes speed, freshness, and health. And that's not the old school way of thinking. The old school way of thinking is we gotta practice all day long and tackle all day long and do the big cat drill and all that kind of stuff that Les Miles had those guys doing for 3-hour practices. That's just not going to happen for Lane Kiffin, but you've got to do some of it, and they will get into that later on today. And it would be great if we got to see it and could sense whether or not they were running the ball a little bit. Because I can tell you, last year, LSU just did not block up front in fall camp. We were out there. They could not run the ball. They could not get a push. They couldn't block Bernard Gooden ever. He was in the backfield every snap he was out there, making TFLs every single day, getting sacks, getting TFLs in the ground game. They were just, and then that carried over to the games where LSU couldn't run the ball. And they've got to get more physical, and they've got a new set of eyeballs, and they've got a new offensive philosophy, which I can promise you they will not. As last year, LSU was dead last in the SEC in rushing attempts. Ole Miss was first. Dead last, first. That's the type of shift you're going to see in this program. They're going to put the ball on the ground and try to move it forward. It's not going to be sit back there and chunk it all over the yard. That's just not going to be the case. And I believe that Dylan Jones is going to get the first opportunity to do that. That's what I think. We have seen him run with the first team all spring long and into the fall. We have seen him compared to Harlem Berry, compared to Caden Durham, and he's a more physical back. And I've said this previously, but I'll reiterate it. This is not some diamond in the rough that LSU found in Dylan Jones. This was a top 10 back in the nation, according to ESPN and 24/7 Sports in his high school class. In his second collegiate season at Wisconsin, he was the starting tailback. He is 6'1". He is 220 pounds. And he is a physical presence. And I think he's going to be the starting running back. we'll just play the game. If you told me to take 100 carries, and what would the breakout be back by back? I think of 100 carries on this team, Dylan Jones would get 65, Harlem Berry would get 25, and that leaves 10 for Caden Durham. Like, that's where I think that's how I would put it, and that's nothing but an educated guess because we haven't seen 100 snaps. We're not watching them get into 11 on 11. We just see the running backs go out there and do some read option drills and then go run through cones. Kevin Smith's very technical about that. And I don't have any history with Kevin Smith in Baton Rouge to know what he wants to do. I know that Frank Wilson likes to rotate guys really liberally. We'll see what Kevin Smith wants to do. But I think Dylan Jones is the starter at running back. I think he's going to be a very good running back for LSU. And I think you're going to get a change of pace with Harlem Berry and then a third back with Caden Durham. That's kind of how I see this thing going. I don't know if Stacey Gage or Racine Guillory or Rod Gainey, I don't know if those guys are going to factor in. But I think your top three are like that. And I believe Dylan Jones, the transfer from Wisconsin, is going to play a big, big role on this team. We'll just see how big as we move into that Clemson game, which is rapidly approaching in less than 3 weeks. That's a look at LSU football. Aaron from Lane Kiffin. We'll hear from Sam Levitt, who addressed the media for the first time as LSU starting quarterback. He did that about an hour and a half ago, and we'll hear from him coming up in 18 minutes from now. Monday shows are brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. We'll come back and put a button on hour number 1 with some Drew Brees talk next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
First American Bank and Trust. First American Bank and Trust. That's FABT.com. FABT.com. No matter where you are in Southeast Louisiana, there's always a First American Bank and Trust near you. 25 locations throughout Southeast Louisiana. And this is the community that they've chosen to invest in and chosen to serve. So if you want a community bank, you want First American Bank and Trust. When I say community bank, don't immediately go, well, they don't have the resources I need for that commercial loan. They're just a local bank. Not true. 25 locations, they've got those resources. So if you need a commercial loan, need a personal loan, and you want those decisions made right here in Southeast Louisiana, it's First American Bank and Trust. Check them out online at FABT.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. Guarantee Health Solutions, guiding healthcare forward. GuaranteeHealth.com.
Friends at Auctioner bring you the Hunt Palmer Show each and every day. I want to remind you it's back to school time, obviously. Nutrition plays a big, big role in kiddos' performance. And Auctioner recommends packing a balanced lunch, protein, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and getting kids involved in meal planning so healthy choices are more appealing for them. For students who are playing sports this fall, make sure they've gotten prepared with that annual sports physical. They've got proper hydration daily, stretching, rest, and the right protective equipment so that they are as safe as possible. Sports can help reduce stress, build confidence, and improve social skills, and it makes it a great way for kids to stay active and engaged throughout the entirety of the school year. If you want more tips on helping your family start the school year in a healthy, safe, and ready to succeed way, visit auctioner.org/BR. That's auctioner.org/BR. I put up a poll on Twitter today, and I'm not surprised at the results because my Twitter following skews more to LSU than the Saints because I cover LSU more closely than the Saints. So you're going to have more LSU fans that are going to vote that are maybe not doing so with their head, but maybe doing so with their heart. But I put a poll out on Twitter that said, who is more likely to make the playoffs, LSU or the Saints? And I'm a little bit surprised at the results. Jordan, what do you think the results are on that?
Well, I'm assuming LSU won.
Yeah.
So I'm
assuming
like,
how much?
It shouldn't be a blowout. You're in NFC South. Should be like, what, 50-40?
66-34.
66-34.
It said LSU's got a better chance to make the playoff than the Saints. Like, I just think that's nuts.
I'm about to say 3 losses ends LSU season.
It's hard. Like, that's a really hard schedule to make the playoff. The Saints have to beat 3 trash teams.
Literally.
They got to beat the Panthers, Falcons, and Bucks.
You need 8 wins, if that. Maybe 9.
They give out wild card bids like Halloween candy in the NFL. Everybody's in the playoff. I disagree with this view. That's not to suggest I don't think that LSU can make the playoffs. I think LSU could make the playoffs, but that would be really, really good effort to get to 10-2 with that schedule. And for the Saints, I mean 9-8.
Yeah, 9-8.
You probably get in.
Panthers was 8-9 last year and got in. So, but Hunt, are we maybe are we just drinking too much of the Saints Kool-Aid right now?
Maybe they stink. It's possible they beat bad teams last year.
Because I feel like we are just so hyped for the season at this point. Just the people we get on talking about the team and whatnot. And maybe LSU really can, do what you got to do. But my biggest gripe would have to be, like I said, 3 losses ends LSU season.
I'll get roasted for this. People won't like to hear this because it's August and everybody's undefeated and everybody thinks everybody's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the Saints have a 43% chance to make the playoffs, and I think LSU's got a 33% chance to make the playoffs, if that. People will go, "What, are you crazy? In negative, it's a hard schedule.
Clemson's gonna see
going
everything.
to Ole Miss is not easy.
Yeah,
Trinidad, Shameless, Kewan Lacey. Then you got to come back and play A&M, who has kicked your teeth in for 2 years.
Yep. Got Brian Kelly fired.
Then you got to play Bama. You got to play Texas, who's got more talent than anybody in the country. You got to go to Knoxville. I didn't even mention Clemson. It's a really hard schedule. And I don't know about LSU defensive tackle. I don't know if they're going to be able to run the ball. I don't know about the offensive line. I don't know. This is not the segment anybody wants to hear right now. They want to hear how awesome everything is all the time.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a lot of real room for optimism. I talked about it a lot in the first segment, but I just think the Saints have a significantly better chance to make the playoffs than LSU. The Saints have to beat 3 teams.
Yeah. And also, I think the Saints have a bigger room for error. I feel like the Saints can start off the year 0-2. You don't want to start off 0-2, but you'll be okay. LSU starts off 0-2. Somebody's getting fired. Now, it might not be Kiffin, but somebody.
I don't think they're going to lose to Louisiana Tech.
You
could lose the second window. Yeah. You could lose 1 and 3.
Yeah.
You lose to Clemson and Ole Miss. If you told me you can bet on the Kiffin era at LSU versus the Kellen Moore era in the Saints, I would take the Kiffin era at LSU. I think there's real reason for optimism over Lane's time here. But this year, I think the Saints are a better bet to make the playoff. But maybe I'm crazy. I wanted to end the hour here, and I got 5 minutes talking about Drew Brees and going to the Hall of Fame. I had a chance to watch his speech and thought he hit the high points. Thought he did a wonderful job. It was really cool to see the people there. That Jimmy Graham was there. Alvin Kamara flew up there. You saw Marcus Colston was there as well. Sean Payton obviously introduced Drew Brees, who gave an impassioned speech about his football life and was so complimentary about New Orleans and talked about how seriously he took the mantle of being the leader of what he called the soul of the city, which I think in a lot of ways the Saints are the soul of that city. And he said he would die for defending that honor, which I thought was maybe a touch dramatic, but he knew who he was talking to. There was a really good crowd of black and gold there, and I thought he delivered as you would imagine Drew Brees would, with just a lot of tact and hitting all the right notes and expressing his appreciation for New Orleans. We talked about it on Friday, and I won't go right back into that same whole spiel, but for Brees coming off of that injury to take the mantle in that city and do what he did is a story that will be told for a very, very long time, and you kind of put a bow on his football life with that induction on Saturday. And I just thought that the appreciation he expressed to the city was really, really cool. That's something that I always find interesting, is the connection that an athlete has with the city, even though it's not a place that you were from. And Drew was always going to move back to San Diego when his time was over. That's just, San Diego's pretty nice place to live when you got a huge chunk of change. But he embraced New Orleans so much as a kid from Austin who played college in the Midwest and was drafted out west by San Diego, and then comes in, and he really represented himself well. That family calls New Orleans home, even though they don't live there anymore. And I thought the appreciation he showed for the city was very cool. Jordan, you're a New Orleans guy. What did you think of it?
I loved it. Like you said, he hit every high point that you wanted. I really don't think there's nobody safer in the city of New Orleans. He's safer than the mayor, honestly.
Well, there's no question about that.
I'm about to say, Drew Brees.
Politicians say.
Yeah, I'm about to say, Drew Brees he can leave, drop his wallet, and somebody will give it back to him. Yeah. That's how much the city of New Orleans appreciates Drew Brees and how much he appreciates us. But at the same time, it really just goes to show you it doesn't take much to connect with the city. He showed you right there that if you're the starting quarterback, basically the blueprint that Tyler Shuck is following.
Yeah, he is.
Just love the city, it'll love you back. Drew Brees is the model of that, and it just shows you. It goes a long way. The predecessor before Tyler Shuck, we don't go say his name like Baltimore. Yeah, and maybe whoever that guy is. Yeah, that guy, he didn't do that. And it just shows you the contrast of somebody that didn't accept the city and somebody that came here and accepted it at its worst. He came during Katrina. It was nothing here, and he did that.
How are we feeling about Sean Payton these days?
Look, man, I'm not a biggest Sean Payton guy. Everybody knows that. I mean, it's cool that look, Sean, you got us the ring. I still feel like you kind of just cheated on us a little bit. Like you was flirting with the Broncos the whole time. Oh yeah, I'm going to retire and all this bull. But look, I'll tell you this, Hunt, before we get out of here. The bus. How do you feel about the bus? I'm not the biggest fan of that bus.
It's so hard to like be critical of that. It's such a hard thing to do. I didn't think it was on the money. The birthmark is a nice touch. That works. It's not awful. If I'm grading it, it's a C. It's better than the Cristiano Ronaldo thing.
Oh, that's not even close. Yeah, I'm about to say, but it's just Ed Reed one was so perfect, and I just look at Drew Brees and be like, what? It is Drew when you have a couple beers. It looks like Drew. It look like
it's a 2-beer Breeze.
2-beer Breeze.
It could have been better, but that's a tough thing to do.
Okay,
I get it. I'm no sculptor. Okay,
yeah,
But that's it was a great weekend for the Saints and great for Drew Brees to put on that gold jacket and be a representative of the organization as the organization's greatest player. It was cool that Ricky Jackson, Willie Roaf, and Morton Anderson were there, and great turnout from the New Orleans fans there. So awesome day for Drew Brees, for his family, and for the New Orleans Saints in Canton, Ohio, as he goes into the Hall of Fame. That's it for hour number 1. We're brought to you by Guarantee Health Solutions. They're online at guaranteehealth.com, guaranteehealth.com. They're guiding healthcare forward over there at Guarantee Health Solutions. Rachel Fricke and her team are just phenomenal at what they do. And it's just bringing hospitality and a personal touch to the healthcare system. They work with health systems, urgent care operators, specialty practices, community clinics. They've got 40-plus years of healthcare leadership experience, managing 23 health system partnerships across 12 states, about 1 million patients a year they oversee there. And that gives them the credibility. They know what they're doing. So if you're in the healthcare space and want to grow your brand and want to make sure that your patients have a positive experience in your system, Guarantee Health Solutions can help you with that. They're online at guaranteehealth.com. That's guaranteehealth.com. They bring you our Monday shows. That's it for hour number 1. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Sam Levin spoke for the first time since being LSU's quarterback. He did not speak in the spring. He did not come to SEC Media Days. He talked today, and I haven't heard it yet, so we'll do that after Sports Center.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running the show for 4 decades. Do something for 40 years, you got it figured out, and they do. If you need a Generac home standby generator installed, there's only one phone number to call. It's 985-397-1562, Boudreaux's Electrical Services. You know where we live. These summer thunderstorms that come through in the evenings, knock your power out, can be a nuisance, and when hurricanes do barrel through here, obviously you can lose power for an extended amount of time, multiple days at times. That's just no fun. And you can give yourself the peace of mind and know that's not going to happen to you. You get that Generac home standby generator installed from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical Services. If you've already gotten a Generac installed, but you don't have it serviced, don't have a maintenance team, well, get the Boudreaux's Boost. They will come help you with that. A local team that can get involved with your Generac home standby generators. Boudreaux's Electrical Services. They're online at boudreauxelectrical.com. It's Boudreaux's Electrical Services online at boudreauxelectrical.com.